Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a newer movie that I finally saw. I wanted to go to a drive-in theater to see it, and I completely missed out on it. It's a movie I've been looking forward to for quite a while, and it's one that I was not sold on this movie when the trailers were released. It's called Gran Turismo, or Turismo. I've heard it pronounced both ways. It's based on a video game series, but this movie is more based not just on the actions of how the simulator racing game goes, but even more so on the true story about a fellow named Jan Mardenborough, who's played by Archie Madekwe, I think is how you say his name in this movie. And the movie's directed by Neil Blomkamp, who brought us some really good sci-fi classics. Surprisingly enough, I was surprised to see him make this movie, but he brought us some things like District 9, which is one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. That's an absolute modern-day classic. He brought us Elysium, which I still think is good. For whatever reason, everybody changed their mind about Elysium in the last few years. I don't understand why, but it's a good flick. I like it. I still own it somewhere around here. And then he put out Chappie, and Chappie was awful. Chappie was a true piece of shit. And then he made, what else did he make? He made something else that didn't do well. I think it was like a straight-to-video, straight-to-streaming, possession, sci-fi movie, something like that. Neil Blomkamp was going to make alien movies when he made District 9. All of us, everybody on the planet had wanted him to make Halo, and that didn't happen. So I feel bad for Blomkamp. He's a very talented man, very talented visual style director who knows what he wants to do, and he does the projects he wants to do. And he puts his heart and soul into them, and I respect the hell out of him for it, whether his movies are good or bad. But personally, like many people said that have seen this movie, I think Gran Turismo might be his best movie, in my personal opinion. I loved this. I'm not a big sci-fi guy most of the time, but District 9 was like a classic when it came out. It changed everything. People started looking at found footage differently. People were looking at sci-fi differently. It was a year after Iron Man had kicked off the big, not really a sci-fi movie, but you know, it kind of kicked off that push to go towards that direction with the MCU in society. Blomkamp really set us up for that. And it made people love Halo even more, because we all could watch that movie and really see Halo in it. But Gran Turismo is a straight-out racing movie based on a true story about a guy who was so good at the racing game Gran Turismo. I'm assuming on PS3. I don't know when this story took place, really. I didn't focus enough on that because I was so engaged in so much else in this movie. This young man was basically recruited by the Gran Turismo Academy after he won a race with one of the fastest lap times on his account for Gran Turismo. He's obsessed with it. He doesn't really have a life plan, but he wants to go into racing somehow, some way. And this is his big opportunity to break into with this Gran Turismo Academy to become a real-life racer, just so Orlando Bloom, who kind of instigates this whole thing in Sony, to prove a point that the racing game Gran Turismo is such a big proponent of teaching people about cars, teaching them how to drive if they do the whole rig, like with the steering wheel in front of your TV and shit. It was to prove that that game could teach you how to drive like a pro. And our main character here, Jan, is supposed to be the proof of that. He eventually works his way into real racing, and it is absolutely so engaging to watch. This was an amazing movie, dude. Everything from the directing to most of the special effects that are, you know, a lot of CGI stuff in here, which is surprising. I thought most of it would be practical effects. But the directing of it, Neil Blomkamp is either a hardcore fan of Gran Turismo or somebody did the hell out of his research to try to figure out what kind of camera angles he could do to make you really feel like you're in that car driving in the game. And it looks a lot like the game sometimes with the different camera angles he picks, the way certain helicopter swooping shots are done. All of that, man, was really, really engaging and incredible in my personal opinion. You have a really good soundtrack with some Black Sabbath, some Kenny G in here. That was really surprising for this movie. And again, when I started it up and it said it was based on a true story, I was like, what the hell are we talking about here? I didn't know this was a thing about Sony actually doing this competition to take people that were online gamers and put them in the real cars. I never knew about that. But Jan is such a lovable character. This is like a Rocky Balboa movie. This is you hearing an underdog story, about a young man who's probably in his mid-20s, I think, who wants to bring his dreams to reality. His family doubt the hell out of him. His newer kind of love interest doubts him a little bit, but not really. And he's young, and he has dreams, and he wants to aspire to those things and find a way to get to them. And this is his one shot, like in Rocky, and I love that about it, dude. If any of that sounds appealing to you at all, even if you don't like based on a true story movies or game-based movies like this is, technically I would say Gran Turismo might be one of the best, if not the best, video game adaptations ever created. Now, mind you, I talked about a little bit of CGI. It's a little goofy. There was one scene where Jan is driving, and I was watching the scene, and all of a sudden my wife looked up because she got really engaged in this movie too because of how good it was, which that's not usual for her because she's more of a reader than a watcher. And all of a sudden Jan's car just decimated into a bunch of parts because it was breaking down how the car was operating so fast as he was driving. That was a weird scene to witness, and it was very weird, very misplaced in my opinion, but the rest of the film I think really landed on most of that, even though the CGI can be kind of iffy sometimes. Again, the music is good, the cinematography is very good for the film, I love the sets, I love the raceways. If you're into the Gran Turismo games, I'm kind of not, I'm kind of newer to it. Matter of fact, I would say too, I just recently picked up Gran Turismo 4 and I started playing that probably a month and a half ago. And I suck at it. I had to figure out online how to turn off the driving assists, which is some bullshit. Did not know that was implied on that game, but it really helped me a lot to turn that off. But it gets so repetitive, you know, and like now you have Gran Turismo 7 or whatever they're at, where they're like forcing people to pay real life money basically to buy these awesome cars. It's a pay-to-win game now, and it's bullshit, you know? I'm not the biggest fan of Gran Turismo, but that should tell you I'm not fanboying here when I tell you I think this is one of the best movies made in years. I'm a big Neil Blomkamp fan, and I think that's really where my whole point of this movie lies. I'm not a diehard, but dude, Gran Turismo blew me away. I was not expecting it to be this good, and I still am so ashamed that I could not see this in the drive-in theater like I wanted to with my wife. I think that her engagement in it, enough, will say for me, that this was excellent. If she was into it, this is excellent, and I highly recommend it alone on that. If you have like the situation like I have, where you have a wife, a girlfriend, whatever, who has no interest in racing movies, no interest in cars or anything like that, the family drama alone and the stuff focused on Archie's character in this movie, Jan, is super, super engaging. That is the heart and soul of this film, and at one point it even had me in tears. That's how wonderful and beautiful this movie was. I loved it. Gran Turismo was a hell of a ride. Not a perfect movie, but pretty damn close in my personal opinion. If you haven't checked out Gran Turismo, you owe it to yourself to watch this 2023 film. Even if you're like me and you're horrible at Gran Turismo games, this made me aspire to want to set my PS2 up again and play some GT4 after it's been about a month since I touched it, and try to see if I can get better at it, because I feel like I was wasting so much time trying to learn so much shit. It's such a steep learning curve to get into that game, just like it is in this movie with Jan's journey here. But anyway, Gran Turismo, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to pick up a physical copy for my collection because I loved it. Absolutely love this movie. If you've not seen it, you owe it to yourself to check it out. Please, for the love of God, watch it, because it is so underrated. The massive, big mainstream critics hated it, except for the ones on YouTube. A lot of people really enjoyed this on YouTube. But the big critics, excuse me, were not good to this movie, which is a bullshit situation, because this movie deserves a really great audience, man. It really does, and I stand by that. So anyway, what'd you think about Gran Turismo? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments about it down in the comment section down below. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I would probably give this, I'm going to lean towards a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this. I loved everything about it, except for the couple of goofy moments in it with some CGI, but man, this had a lot of heart and soul to it. The performances, by the way, from Orlando Bloom and David Harbour, who played Hellboy, who plays on Stranger Things. David Harbour is an excellent actor. He's channeling some Jack Nicholson for this movie, and he is kind of the trainer who doubts every one of these gamers who are trying to learn how to drive in the cars, and he is the kind of main connection to Jan to get him into this world. And the rocky relationship they have is really engaging, and I really like that a lot. David Harbour was one of the standout performances in this movie. But there are other faces too. You probably know that when you see the film, you'll know these other people. There's one guy from Guardians of the Galaxy in here as well. But wonderful movie. Everybody was great in it. Every single performance was wonderful. It's probably one of the best performances from Orlando Bloom also. I'm just so surprised. I did not expect to get blown away by this movie the way I was. So anyway, have you seen it? What do you think? Put your thoughts and comments down below once again. Thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you. This is the ultimate movie to watch right now at Thanksgiving because of just what it's about and the family element to it. Your whole family can sit down and watch this and get a blast out of it, man. So please do that. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.